Alright, fellow Slayers, time to take a look at the final episode of the day, which is Wild at Heart. Buffy's chased by a vampire, which she fights in that stakes. Her well-thought puns are not appreciated. Spike watches from a distance and promises trouble, but he is struck by tasers and carried off by the masked and heavily armed people lurking in the Sunnydale shadows. In the Bronze, the Scoop begin to talk about college and why they're still hanging at the Bronze. To their surprise, Giles joins them. Veruca's band Shy starts to play and all the guys are mesmerized by her singing, which distresses Willow. The next morning, Willow wakes up on Oz's bed and they talk about how they'll be apart for 3 nights while there's a full moon keeping Oz locked up, and a Wicca group is meeting on those 3 nights. In class, Buffy gets a great grade on a psychology paper and Professor Walsh asks her to lead discussion group on the topic. Willow's excited for feeling academically envious of Buffy. Veruca invites Oz to sit with her at lunch, which she accepts since there's room for Willow, and they start talking amps. Willow arrives and is lost by their terminology. Veruca and Oz leave, and Buffy arrives. She tells Willow not to worry about Oz. That night, Oz locks himself into a cage in a crypt, but the door isn't secure enough and he breaks free. As Professor Walsh is leaving the school that night, Oz jumps out at her. Another werewolf appears, and while Professor Walsh runs and hides in the bushes, the 2 werewolves jump out and fight each other. Oz wakes up the next morning to see that their werewolf is Veruca. They sneak into the campus laundry room for clothes, and Veruca appeals to the animal within him. Will shows up at Oz's, and instead of being welcomed with open arms, Oz is closed off, and so she leaves. Buffy informs Giles of the 2 werewolves being spotted on campus, and later goes to Oz in the crypt. She finds him holding the door and asks if he got out, then mentions another werewolf. He tells her he did, but he doesn't remember anything about what happened when he got out. Seeking a male perspective, Will asks Sandra about Oz and tells the reason he's off with her is probably because he can sense her uneasiness, and suggests they talk and work it out. Oz arranges for Veruca to meet him in the crypt that night. He wants to lock her in the cage with him so no one will get hurt. Veruca initially refuses, telling them they should be running free. Eventually, Oz loses the fight against his feelings and drags her into the cage and starts kissing her as they transform. The next morning, breakfast in hand, Will arrives and is shocked to see Oz and Veruca curled up naked together. Oz gets dressed and orders Veruca out. He then tries to explain things to Willow, but she doesn't want to hear it. She accuses him of choosing a solution that involved him and Veruca locked up together rather than him telling someone what was happening. Oz tells her he knows how it feels, and she asks if this is supposed to be payback. He tells her it isn't, but Will questions about whether he wanted Veruca in an animal way before he knew she was a werewolf. Oz remains silent, and Willow runs out crying. Walking home distraught, Willow walks in front of an oncoming car, which Buffy can't save her from, but Riley happens to be there and does. Riley tells Willow that he doesn't know what happened, but it's not worth hurting herself over. Rather than suggest Buffy take her home, Buffy agrees and takes Willow back to their dorm, where Willow tells the whole story. Before she leaves Veruca, she tells Willow that Riley was right and she shouldn't hurt herself. She tells Willow to put the blame where it belongs. Buffy then leaves, determined to take care of Veruca. Willow repeats Buffy's statement about putting the blame where it belongs and goes and opens her trunk full of magic ingredients. Buffy goes to Oz's room and asks him where Veruca is, but he tells her he doesn't know. He points out that he doesn't know all the usual haunts, so he's pretty sure he can follow her scent. When Oz tries to explain what happened, Buffy says it might be a good time for his trademark stoicism. She chastises him for not only hurting Willow, but for lying about knowing who the other werewolf was. Using Oz's heightened senses to lead the way, Buffy and Oz find Veruca's clothes. They realize that it's just a diversion and come to the conclusion that she's gone after Willow. Buffy and Oz quickly rush back to the college, but Buffy runs into a commando. The 2 briefly scuffle, but Buffy grabs her tranquilizer gun and leaves. Willow is one of the campus labs, conjuring a spell clamoring deceitful hearts be broken. She takes a picture of Oz and put it in the spell pod. She can't bring herself to complete it. Everything she has levitating smashes down and the fire goes out. She turns around when she hears Veruca say that she thought for a minute that Willow actually played dirty, but she knew Willow was too weak to actually finish the spell. Veruca locks the lab's door and tells Willow that she's going to kill her when the sun goes down. That way Willow can't stand between her and Oz anymore. Just in time for the werewolf transformation, Oz breaks in and warns Veruca not to hurt Willow. Veruca refuses, believing Willow is stopping Oz from fully embracing his wolf side. She then tells Oz that they're animals at heart, and Oz agrees that they're animals and they can kill. At this point, he attacks Veruca, still not completely changed. The two soon completely transform and they continue the fight. Oz kills Veruca by ripping her throat out. The wolf then turns his attention to Willow, and she calls him by his name. The wolf leaps in to attack Willow, only for Buffy to stop him at the last second. She finally tranquilizes him in the comforts of crying Willow. The next day, Buffy tells Giles about the heavily armed man she saw while searching for Veruca, who was dressed the same way as the men she saw on Halloween. She says that, because of him, she was too late to stop Oz from killing Veruca, and almost wasn't able to stop Oz from killing Willow. Although they know that this is serious, both are far more concerned about Willow and Oz, and Buffy can imagine how they're going to get through this. Willow finds Oz in his room, packing. Unsure of what separates him from the wolf, he's leaving until he can figure it out. Oz tells Willow that she is the only one he has ever loved, and they hug. As Willow cries alone, Oz walks out, starts up his van, and drives away. Aww. Anyway, now let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. In Oz's room, there are posters from two bands who have played the Bronze before. Chiba Mato from When She Was Bad, and Velvet Chain from Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. Oz mentions having seen Giles' record collection, which he explored in the harsh light of day. This episode reveals the reason for the connection Oz has been feeling with Veruca, as seen in Living Conditions and Beer Bad. When Willow discovers Oz and Veruca together, Oz says he remembers how it feels, in reference to the time he and Cordelia saw Willow and Xander kissing each other. Willow says she thought that was behind them, as they dealt with the betrayal and resumed their relationship and amends. Buffy tells Giles about running into commando guys on Halloween, referring to the brief encounter and fear itself. Buffy mentions the time she lost Angel, ran away, and went to hell. This episode features another hint that Willow might misuse magic for seeing Lover's Walk, which will become a major plot point of Season 6. The relationship between Oz and Veruca is reminiscent of Angel and Darla in Angel. Veruca, like Darla with Angel, wants to attract Oz to the dark forces by killing his lover. Unlike the Lycanthropus extraterrestrial species of werewolf, Veruca remains in her wolf state after Oz kills her. Buffy's not interested in the commandos she keeps seeing. This is building the plotline of the initiative. Oz's time to bed after this episode and before New Moon Rising is seen in Retreat Part 2. Now let's take a look at some production notes from this episode. This episode marks the last time that Seth Green appears in the opening credits. Joss Whedon had originally envisioned the love triangle between Oz, Veruca, and Willow to continue for most of Season 4. However, Seth Green left the series to take a film role, and only returned in 2 more episodes, New Moon Rising and Restless. Whedon says that losing Green was a heartbreaker, and so Willow got her heart broken. I took what we were feeling and put it on screen, so everybody would be onto the same page. Marty Noxon has stated that Wild at Heart is viewed as the second episode in the Willow Oz trilogy, with Faces as the first, and New Moon Rising as the last. And now finally, let's take a look at some pop culture references. Buffy says that the Stones can still keep rolling, in reference to the band The Rolling Stones. Listening to Shy's concert, Buffy says compares Veruca to the singer Fiona Apple. Also compares the hairiness of his wolf transformation to Jerry Garcia from The Grateful Dead. Excuse me. In their conversation about guitar amps, Oz and Veruca mentioned the Creative Blue Voodoo, the Johnson Millennium, the Alessandro Redbone, and the Alessandro Hound Dog. Willow claims to be a fan of Elvis Presley. Xander mentions the singer-songwriter Sarah McLachlan when describing tender lovemaking. Veruca calls Oz's cage Habit Trail, a brand name for hamster cages. So overall, yeah, this episode is kind of sad considering everything happens between Willow and Oz. So yeah, but hey, at least we don't have to deal with Veruca anymore, so that's good. So overall, I give Wild at Heart 4 vampire steaks out of 5. But anyway, tune in tomorrow as we take the next episode, The Initiative. So until then, here endeth the lesson.